Welcome to the second part of the Hotline Miami Iceberg. In this video I'm going to be breaking down the remaining levels of the Iceberg, so if you haven't seen part 1, I recommend you watch that first and then come back here. So, without further ado, let's continue the Iceberg. The Abyss. In Withdrawal, once you reach the 3rd floor, you only have one try to complete it. If you fail, Jake gets knocked out and taken to the building from Hot and Heavy, where he's killed by Petrov. Afterwards, you play as Evan, trying to find anything useful in Jake's belongings at the evidence locker. Evan is unable to find anything substantial and leaves. This is the canon ending to Jake's storyline. But if you manage to complete the 3rd floor and try to leave, the 50 Blessings manager shows up and tells you to come with him. Jake is then taken to the 50 Blessings headquarters, and if you repeatedly click with your mouse, Jake will pick up a floppy disk from the table before he is killed by the manager. This time, while Evan is searching through Jake's clothes, he will find the floppy disk. This unlocks the Abyss, a bonus level. Inside the floppy disk were address locations, which Evan goes to. One of the addresses turns out to be the abandoned 50 Blessings headquarters visited by Jake. Evan goes through the building, reaching the back room, where he finds a large group of hobos wearing animal masks. They threaten Evan, telling him to leave as the building belongs to them now. Once Evan leaves the room, the building becomes filled with gang members, which Evan has to defeat to leave. Inside the building there are ruined beds, as well as a water purifier system and a gym. The building has lead-lined walls and a vault door, implying 50 Blessings plan to survive the nuclear war inside there. Whether those plans ever panned out is unknown. Carl. Carl is one of the deceased 50 Blessing operators. His body can be found on the dance floor in Push It. Carl doesn't play a big part in the storyline of the games, and isn't really important. But a comic by David C. Hopkins, Austin Wilson, and Kara Kelly revealed a bit of his backstory. In the comic, Carl becomes aware of 50 Blessings' true goal. He picks up a payphone and talks into the dial tone, saying how he knows that it isn't real, that they can hear him. Carl talks to 50 Blessings, telling them how it doesn't matter how many blessings they think they have, because he's a curse, he's one of many, and eventually, 50 Blessings will be stopped, and will drown in the blood of their own men. He then kills 2 Russian gangsters as he breaks into the building, revealing that he's in the same dance floor from Push It. He raises his drill towards the Russians and yells at them, "This is my rifle." He's then shot down and killed. This comic was actually fan-made, but Denton liked it so much that they made it canon. Judging from the comic, we can tell that Carl was most likely a soldier, much like the other operatives. After realizing 50 Blessings' true goals, he decided not to play their game anymore, and willingly died at the hands of the Russians. Decadence Build. The Decadence Build is an early demo version of Hotline Miami, and as the name implies, it goes up to the level Decadence. This is a much later build in comparison to Cocaine Cowboy, as there's story, intros, masks, and a few full levels. A notable difference is that Jacket's first mask was originally Tony, not Richard. His hair is still grey, much like Cocaine Cowboy, and certain masks have different names. Rasmus is called Oscar, Aubrey is called Gary, and Brandon is called Steve. The masks don't grant any special perks and are already unlocked. The sound effects are different from the final game, and Chromatics' Lady is playing on loop in the background. The girlfriend and the producer are also absent from Decadence, not having been added yet. Biker survived the nuke. A decently popular theory is that Biker survived the nuke at the end of the second game, as he's not shown dying along with the other characters. When talking to Evan, he states how he lives in the middle of the desert, after having become paranoid due to what he knows about 50 Blessings. The theory states how it's possible that Russia didn't nuke Biker's location, as there were no inhabitants there. Though the theory is interesting, the reason Biker wasn't shown dying in the credits is probably because he was never a big part of the game. He appears briefly outside the courthouse in First Trial, as well as in the Bar of Broken Heroes Easter egg. He was never a part of the main storyline, and you only encounter him if you go out of your way. Putting him in the credits would have spoiled the Easter egg if you hadn't found it, and would have also further confused the players more than they already were. The Colonel is Richter's dad. Richter's dad is a character we never see in the game. He's described as a loner by Richter's mother, Rosa, who also keeps flowers on his side of the bed, implying that he has passed away. His office room has been locked, but we can see that it's full of animal pelts and hunting trophies. A theory is that Richter's dad could still be alive, and is in fact the Colonel. There's not much to back this up, other than the animal connection, and the fact that Richter seems to have served in the military. If the Colonel really was Richter's dad, why does Rosa keep flowers on the bed? The Colonel's alive, isn't he? And why would the Colonel have allowed 50 Blessings to burn down his son's car, coerced his son into doing their dirty work, threaten his wife, and stage a prison riot so he could kill his own son? Rosa's description of a loner husband also doesn't really match with the Colonel, who has shown to be a very vocal and loud individual. Most things point to Richter's dad being, in fact, dead. Super Carnage. Super Carnage is a game made around 2004 and 2005. It is the spiritual predecessor of Hotline Miami. The premise of the game was that you'd wake up nude in a bathroom, finding yourself in a hostile environment filled with enemies. The game had several weapons, such as crowbars, baseball bats, pipes, and shotguns, which all made their way into Hotline Miami. The more interesting weapons included Molotov cocktails, grenades, rocket launchers, and flamethrowers, the last of which was added to Hotline Miami 2. Instead of a mask system, the game had unlockable clothes, such as body armor. The AI's pathfinding was janky, which forced Yonatan to stop working on it. Only one map was made for Super Carnage, which was later reused and updated for Hotline Miami, becoming the level Full House. Homicide and Dead Ahead were just dreams. In the outro of Homicide, Manny Pardo goes to investigate another murder by the Miami Mutilator. While examining the crime scene, there is a sudden bright flash, as Pardo and the other officers are surrounded by cameramen, before they disappear. This theme later reappears in Caught, where Pardo is transported to a movie set of a police station. Pardo proceeds to kill all of the officers inside the building, storming out the front door before being shot by backup. He then frantically jumps out of bed, revealing that it was all just a dream. Pardo is very clearly obsessed with fame. This leads to him committing the actions in Homicide and Dead Ahead, as hopes of being recognized and making it on the news. Soul Detective takes down criminals robbing a mall. Manny Pardo single-handedly ends the operations of the Colombian cartel. This, of course, never happens, as the public is more interested in the masked vigilante cases and Jacket's trial. All of this infuriates Pardo, who eventually succumbs and becomes the Miami Mutilator, as a last-ditch attempt to get fame. This makes Pardo a very conflicting person, which is echoed even by Richard, who tells Pardo that he doesn't understand why he does what he does. Is Pardo really a hard-boiled cop who wants to rid Miami of its filth, even if it means going against the law and people's morals? Or is he just a man desperate for attention and fame? Because while he has mainly killed criminals, he has also gone as far as killing innocent civilians, all in the hopes of getting a news headline. But at the same time, did Pardo even really kill these criminals? What if Homicide and Dead Ahead are also dreams, much like Caught? While the fans did go attack buildings filled with thugs, they were a group of 5 people. And while the son did a lot of heavy lifting himself, he wasn't entirely alone. What are the odds that a sole Miami detective was able to single-handedly clear out an entire mall and a cargo ship filled to the brim with criminals? Pardo has already shown to be prone to hallucinations and vivid dreams. So what if every justice crusade he did was a dream, and he only really murdered innocent people as the Miami Mutilator? Tattoo artist is Tension Tony. In the outro of Withdrawal, Jay goes to get a tattoo, only for his appointment to be rescheduled. The man at the front desk changes the appointment for May 5th, 1989, which is the same date as Tension. Judging from the pixel art, the name of the shop seems to be Tony's Skate Tattoo. This led to the theory that the tattoo artist at the front desk is possibly Tony from Tension. The theory is intriguing, but while talking to the tattoo artist, Jay calls him a Russian. It's kinda doubtful that a Russian would sign up for 50 Blessings, knowing that the organization is not a fan of the Russo-American coalition. Though it's interesting to note that he's based on Tony Skate, a real tattoo artist. Cut content. Hotline Miami has its fair share of removed features and content. Weapons such as tasers, hand grenades, and planks were cut, with the taser later appearing in Hotline Miami 2. Levels were also cut, such as the hotel level. Some of the cut levels were later repurposed for Hotline Miami 2. There would have also been an email chain between Biker and the janitors, revealing the purpose of the computer in Biker's apartment. The father would have also had 2 extra bodyguards that Jacket would have fought, both bearing firearms. Their sprites can be found in the first game's files. In the second game, Manny Pardo would have had the ability to gather evidence at crime scenes, and pin the Miami Mutilator crimes on different characters. Evan would have fought the Colombians and would have been able to use the Magnum. Corey was able to enter levels through multiple different ways. The Dallas mask originally granted random perks, and the Irvin mask granted an invincibility perk. First Trial was originally called Trial and Error, Demolition was called Stay Down, and the Abyss was called Shelter, the cover art of which can still be found in the game files. There is also an unused demon enemy meant for the level Apocalypse. The Bar of Broken Heroes would have been the intro to Act 5, but instead it was turned into an Easter egg. Martin Brown's fate. Martin Brown is the actor who plays the Pig Butcher in the Midnight Animal movie, a loosely based, unfaithful adaptation of Jacket's crimes in Hotline Miami 1. During a hallucinatory interview, Martin lashes out and reveals to the audience that he's always wanted to murder people, and the Midnight Animal movie allows him to do that. Martin is later accidentally murdered while filming, killed by a faulty prop gun. A theory is that Martin is a method actor, and tried to truly get into a murderer's mind, causing him to believe he really liked murdering people. It's also possible that he didn't die in Final Cut, and is once again method acting. Depending on what ending you choose for Evan, it's possible for an interview with Martin Brown to air on TV on the 28th of December, weeks after Midnight Animal has been released. This reveals that Martin possibly didn't die on set, but it's also possible that the interview airing is simply posthumous. Another theory is that Martin really is a serial killer, trying to justify his actions by mentioning that he's an actor in a movie. His obsession with Jacket goes as far as to kidnap a blonde girl who looks similar to Jacket's girlfriend, all culminating in her escaping and him dying in the process of getting her back. In the end, it's all still up to your interpretation to determine if Martin was an actor who sadly got killed by a faulty prop, a method actor who got a little too into his character, or a deranged mentally ill killer. Manny Pardo is based on a real serial killer. This is true. Manny Pardo is partially based on Manuel Pardo Jr., a real-life serial killer who was also a police officer. Pardo murdered 6 men and 3 women in early 1986. He took photos of the murders and recounted them in his journal, as well as collected newspaper clippings detailing the murders. During court, he claimed that the 9 victims were drug dealers and had no right to live, committing the murders as personal justice. Other than sharing names, the game Pardo is a cop as well, who goes out of his way to murder thugs and cartel members as his way of personal justice. The newspaper clippings real-life Pardo collected is actually mirrored in Jacket, who in the first game is shown to collect newspaper clippings of the murders he commits against the Russian mafia. The loaded pistol in Final Cut was placed by Pardo. In Final Cut, after Martin Brown is accidentally shot dead, you can briefly see 2 police officer actors outside the set. Their head sprites are identical to those of Pardo and Evan. This started the theory that Pardo sabotaged the Midnight Animal set, dressing as a police officer and replacing the prop gun with a real gun, leading to Martin Brown's death. As established, Pardo is obsessed with fame and wants to be noticed by the press, though he's unable to reach fame, as the Animal Mask murders are getting all the attention. His friend Evan is writing a book about them, the public is obsessed with them, there's a new set of masked copycats, and now even a movie is being made about them. Knowing that the movie would be a success, Pardo set out to stop its production out of jealousy, and what better way to achieve that than by killing its main character? If this theory is true, Pardo's actions are ultimately pointless, as the movie is still released in December of that year. Hotline Miami movie. On February 20th, 2020, Mark Swift and Damian Shannon, 2 screenwriters, tweeted, "Tell us something weird you pitched on but never got made. We went in on the prequel to 7. We loved what we came up with, but probably a bad idea to try and follow a masterpiece. What you got?" One of the many replies was from Jason Leigh Howden, the director of Guns Akimbo. He revealed that he once pitched a live-action Hotline Miami movie. According to him, he had a solid pitch, but the studio wanted to remove the animal masks, and even discussed having the movie not take place in Miami. He went on to state that if the movie had ever been made, it would have been super neon, super synthwave, and super violent. The Miami Mutilator was going to be his own character. The Notebook is an item that comes with the Gamer's edition of Hotline Miami. It details the development of the games and gives insight on certain aspects of the story, as well as includes some rough sketches. One of the more interesting things revealed in the book is that the Miami Mutilator was originally planned to be a character of his own. He was supposed to stalk the levels of the game, and blink and you'll miss it moments. But according to Denethon, the twist that the hard-boiled cop was the serial killer all along was too good to pass up. Richard is the god of death. During both games, a number of characters encounter a very certain someone in what appears to be nightmares or visions. This, of course, is Richard. Not much is known about Richard. He's an enigmatic being that seems to possess supernatural powers. In Hotline Miami 1, he appears along with two other characters, Rasmus and Don Juan. The three of them guide Jacket through his memories while he's in a coma. Rasmus is a personification of the Russian mob, constantly being aggressive to Jacket and not wanting to even see him, while Don Juan is a personification of Jacket's girlfriend. She's the most kind and friendly out of the three. Richard, on the other hand, is interesting. He looks like Jacket, as he's wearing his clothes, but he isn't Jacket. He knows a lot more than Jacket does, even taunting him about it. Taunting Jacket about how a lot of what he does serves no purpose, and that he will never get the full picture. Which is true. Jacket never finds out who was really behind the phone calls. He never finds out why 50 Blessings does what they do, blindingly going on killing sprees to try and reach what he wants to let himself believe is the truth. This, in turn, makes the Colonel's words true, that humans are animals, killing with no point because deep down, they enjoy it. In Hotline Miami 2, Richard returns, this time with the absence of Rasmus and Don Juan. He connects every character together and once again, seems to know everything about them as well as their fate. Richard quite often tries to deter the characters from their violent paths which ultimately lead to their deaths. He confronts Son about his pointless plan to rebuild the Russian mafia, even though his father disapproves, which leads to the organization crumbling down and his death. He confronts Evan about his insecurities and family issues, and how he's taken his time for granted, showing him a vision of his wife leaving him, something which does indeed happen if the player lets it. And he comforts Richter about his upcoming death when the nukes are about to be launched. Richard also gives him a commentary that can be seen as him talking to you, the player. All of this has led to people believing that Richard is the personification of death. Death is constantly brought up by him. He continuously tells the characters that they should get their priorities in check and spend their remaining days fruitfully, as everything they are doing ultimately won't matter, whether it be avenging your family, continuing a vigilante crusade, or simply wanting to write a book. As I mentioned earlier, Richard could be a reference to the three roosters of Norse mythology, whose crowing signifies the beginning of Ragnarok, the apocalypse, and the final battle. He appears one final time before Hawaii and Florida are nuked, and possibly the rest of the US. This can be seen as, well, the apocalypse, or the start of a war. He also appears in the table sequence after starting a new playthrough, surrounded by the characters of the second game. This can be seen as a reference to the Norse afterlives, Hel and Valhalla. Valhalla is the afterlife of those who died in battle, while Hel is the afterlife of those who didn't die in battle. The table sequence could take place in Valhalla, as all the characters present there died fighting for something that they wanted to achieve, while characters like Jacket, Biker, and even Rachel are not present. These are characters who were content with their achievements in life, such as in the case of Rachel, or characters who had given up fighting and continuing, such as Jacket and Biker. Am I reaching and possibly looking too deep into it? Probably, but it's nice to theorize. So that was the Hotline Miami Iceberg. I hope this video is entertaining as well as somewhat informative. Hotline Miami and its sequel are games that I'm a big fan of, and I thought that they deserved a video. I'm also not the first to make a video about this specific topic, so shout out to the other people as well. I'm sorry if I got anything wrong. I think I know a fair bit of the game's story, but there's still a lot of things that are up in the air. This game has a lot of things going on, so I may or may not make a follow-up video in the future. But yeah, that's about it. Once again, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more stuff like this, then maybe consider subscribing. Other than that, keep playing the Hotline Miami games, listening to the soundtrack, making your own art and stories, and just overall keeping the community alive.